Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we are about to play Obsession. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. My goal is this video can not only teach you to play, but can be shown at the game table to help set up and teach the game at your next game session. As part of that goal, I've added chapter timestamps in the description to the different sections of the tutorial to easily recap relevant rules for you. I'm teaching for the second edition of the game. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. In the game of Obsession, players are one of 4 families in Derbyshire, England in the mid-19th century trying to improve their country estates and restore their failing reputations. To best re-establish their family name, all eyes are on the Fairchild estate, Alderley Hall, home of Margaret Dowager Countess Fairchild and her sister-in-law Ethel. They've recently welcomed their niece and nephew, Charles and Elizabeth, who just lost their parents who died crossing the channel in terrible weather. 1 year later, the ladies decide the best way to move past the tragedy is to get Charles and Elizabeth married. Each player's family has eligible children. With the Fairchild's joint income of £20,000, securing a marriage will certainly improve your family name and estate. But will it be enough? During the game, you'll be gaining new estate improvements, gentry guests to host, employees to run events, wealth, reputation, and possible courtships. All of these will earn victory points through the 16 or 20 rounds of gameplay. Let's look at setting up the game. The first decision before setting up is, do you want to play the standard or extended play game? Scoring will be much higher in the extended game due to 4 extra rounds of play. It allows for greater estate development, hosting greater events with more guests, completion of more difficult objective cards, and higher player reputation. It will also increase the playtime by 10 minutes per player. I'll explain both methods and note what the changes are for an extended game. Place the large supply board in the middle of the table. Next to it, place the Alderley Hall round track board with the white pawn on the first square. The side with 16 rounds is standard play. The opposite side is 20 rounds for extended. Shuffle the victory point cards and place the deck face down on its face. Then shuffle the theme cards and place it face down on its face. Put a number of reminder tokens on the board equal to the number of players. Find the Charles and Elizabeth Fairchild cards and put them above the Alderley Hall board. These have a purple border and unique crest at the top left. Put a number of servants on the Servants for Hire box of the supply board according to your player count. In a 2-player game, place 2 under-butlers, 4 footmen, 2 valets, and 2 ladies' maids. In a 3-player game, increase the footmen to 6 and valets and maids to 3. For a 4-player game, use 8 footmen and 4 valets and maids. While the under-butlers are placed in the for-hire area, they are only gained when gaining a specific service tile called the Butler's Pantry. Shuffle the objective cards and place the deck on the supply board to the right of the servants. Create a supply pile of the money coins, which could go in the center of the supply board. Let's switch over now and set up each player with their families. Randomly assign the first player marker to a player. Starting with the player sitting left of them and going clockwise, each player can choose a family board. The difference between families are their starting family bonuses found in the bottom right corner of the boards. Give £300 to the player who chose Family Ponsonby. Choose to use the side with estate improvements built in at the bottom if you have room to build out tiles there on the table. If there's not room, grab the separate organizer and set it next to the family board with room for tiles below. Each family should collect 5 reputation wheel counters with unique numbers. Place the number 1 reputation counter face up on their board here. If not playing the extended play version, you can put the 7-8 marker back in the box. Put the reputation wheel marker on position 1 of the wheel. Whoever is Family Cavendish gets to start their marker at position 4. Give each player starting servant meeples placed in the available service box of their board. There's a blue butler, red housekeeper, green valet, purple lady's maid, and 1 white footman. Family York starts with an extra footman. Grab the 5 starting estate tiles that show this building icon in the top right and place them below where it says Country Estate Improvements. Everyone starts with the private study, butler's room, main gazebo, front parlor, and bowling green. Return any unused starting estate tiles to the game box. Each family gains their starting 4 family member cards showing their color, family crest, and first letter of the family name found at the top left corners. Everyone has a husband, wife, heir, and daughter. The family Asquith family bonus gives that player a 5th starting family member, a Dowager Countess aunt. Next, find all 15 of the starter guests that have a crown at the top left corner. Shuffle these and deal 2 to each player. These 2 plus their starter family cards make up their active hand. From the objective card deck, deal 5 to each player. In extended play, deal each player only 4. Give each player 1 of each reference card to use during the game. That concludes player setup, so let's continue over to the large supply board again. Find all the gentry cards and separate them by how many fleur-de-lis icons in the upper left corners. A single fleur-de-lis are casual guests and 2 are prestige guests. Keep these in mind whenever a card or tile references a casual or prestige guest. The fleur-de-lis are shown below the decks on the board. The unused starter casual guests should be combined with the rest of the casual cards and shuffled. Put these into a deck on the supply board here. Then shuffle all the prestige guest cards into a deck placed here. Remove and set aside all estate monument tiles. Put the rest of the improvement tiles in the large purple bag. Then add specific monuments to the bag based on player count. In a 2-player game, put in the sculpture garden and 2 others you want. In 3 players, add a third of your choice. In a 4-player game, choose any 5 monuments to add to the bag. Now you will need to populate the initial market spaces on the supply board with drawn improvement tiles randomly from the bag. Draw tiles 1 at a time until you get 6 qualifying tiles for the start of the game. Any drawn tiles that don't qualify for the start of the game will return to the bag before starting. Any tile with a 4, 5, or 6 prestige rating is not eligible, nor monuments or the Servants' Hall service tile. You're looking for tiles that have a prestige of 1, 2, or 3, or are one of these service tiles: brushing room, bard butler's pantry, and servants' quarters. Looking at these 6 valid tiles, check the tile sorting number shown near the bottom right of the tiles. Arrange them in ascending order from left to right in the builder's market. If you have any duplicates, stack them together. You're now set up and ready to play. The goal of Obsession is to earn the most victory points at the end of the game, which will last either 16 or 20 rounds. Points can be earned in a variety of ways. The most points you'll likely earn are from improvement tiles in your estate, then your collected gentry cards, objective cards, reputation points, having a large staff, successfully courting a Fairchild, and finally from remaining money. As you can see, you don't have to court a Fairchild to win the game. Chasing a courtship that is unlikely for your current state will be costly, and you may want to direct your focus to the other ways of gaining points. I'll cover the scoring details later in the endgame section. The game proceeds round after round, following the round track with the white pawn. A group of purple rounds to a green one is known as a season. At the beginning of a new season, a new theme card is revealed, which are the kinds of improvements that the Fairchilds prefer. Everyone gets to take a single turn during the purple rounds, which is either hosting an activity or passing. The green rounds are courtships only, and no player turns are taken. Instead, players will score the single theme card revealed for the season. After each season, the first player marker passes counterclockwise. Additionally, each player discards an objective card. In the final courtship round at the end of the game, all the revealed theme cards are scored. The theme cards give all players a goal to aim for as to what kind of improvements they may want to build in their estate. For a theme card on the first 3 courtships, players add up the points shown on their improvements of that type. Whoever has the highest total gets to gain one of the 2 Fairchild cards and add it to their active hand to be used in the next season. That also means anyone who gained them in the previous season must return it from wherever it currently is. Whoever scored the most gets their choice of one of the Fairchild suitor cards and also draws a victory point card from the top of the deck. If there's a tie for who would win the courtship, no one gains the suitor that season, but the tied players all receive a victory point card anyway. The VP cards are unique in this game because you can either keep them face down near you for the whole game and score the points at the end, or use the card during the game for its other benefit and discard it. That can be done on any of your turns after gaining it. At the end of the courtship phase, each player must discard one of their objective cards. To summarize one seasonal courtship of the game, first a theme card is revealed to learn what interests the Fairchilds. Next, players take turns doing activities to gain their attention, one player turn per purple space. Finally, arriving at the courtship round with players' improvements measured against each other to see if one of the Fairchilds visits that family for the next season. Some of the rounds have special icons representing events happening. Those events will happen for each player on their turn that round. This is the Village Fair icon. Players who have flipped over their study tile will gain 2 reputation and 300 pounds. This is the courtship event found on the green spaces. No turns or activities happen, nor is any service refreshed. The only thing that happens is the courtship I just described. This icon is the objective card draw event. The player draws 2 objective cards to add to their hand of objectives. This icon is the Builder's Holiday. In this round, players may purchase as many tiles from the market as they want and can pay for. The National Holiday event is special as it lets players host any activity and any guest, regardless of their current reputation level. Their reputation does not limit any actions that round. The last icon would be for end-game scoring. At this point, players pull out the score pad and start adding up victory points to determine the winner. On each purple space, players in turn order are required to either host one activity or pass. This is a standard turn, which is detailed and numbered out on each player's family board. After a player hosts an activity or passes, the next player clockwise goes until everyone has had a turn. Then the marker moves to the next space on the round track. The round track also notes when the Builder's Market Reserve begins. The reserves are locations on the large supply board to hold the service tiles and PR1 tiles respectively when told to. Any of that kind currently in the market are moved, and any that come out for the rest of the game go to the reserves automatically. In a standard game length, starting in the second season, the Service Tile Reserve begins. Starting then, all service tiles in the Builder's Market go straight to the reserves in a stack that can be searched through and purchased from. Starting in the third season, the Prestige Rating 1 Tile Reserve begins. All improvement tiles with a Prestige rating of 1 are moved to that stack for the remainder of the game to filter out the early game tiles. Those could also be searched through and purchased. On a player's turn, they'll either take a standard turn that ends up with hosting an activity or event, or pass. I'll explain a passing turn now, and in the next section, the different steps that make up a standard turn. To take a pass turn, check the reference card in front of you for passing. First, they resolve any special event showing on the round track, collecting any reputation from monuments, and may still use their Servants' Hall if they have one. Next, they pick up all their cards from their discard pile to their active hand. All their service people are refreshed and moved to the available service box on their family board. Then the player either gains 200 pounds from the supply from collecting tenant rents, or declines the rent in favor of refreshing the Builder's Market. Lastly, they have the option to make a purchase from the Builder's Market. Let's look now at what a standard turn looks like, which follows the 8 steps printed on each family's player board. Go through each step to complete your turn. The first step is to rotate service. First, move all servants in the servants' quarters to the available service box, making them available to use for the current turn. Secondly, move servants from the expended service area to the servants' quarters box to rest. They are still unavailable this turn. The second step is to check the round track for any events and icons present to resolve. Resolve those first. Next, if the player owns monuments, they gain reputation equal to the number of monuments owned. Then, if they own a servants' hall, they may place any available servant to the hall to gossip. When doing this, the player chooses an opponent to lose 1 reputation, while the owner gains 1. The servant used is then put into expended service. The third step is to host an activity by choosing one of the improvement tiles in your estate. Each tile represents a room or outside space at your country estate. The white print below the name is the activity you can host. Choose a tile and move it to the square labeled Activity on your board. You'll need to check what the prestige rating is on the tile. It must be equal or lower than your current reputation. Additionally, you will need to have the servant type available as shown on the tile. Announce the activity you're hosting to all players. There are no secrets in Derbyshire. If you don't have the servant available, you could use a special refresh action to move the servant to the available box first. If you have built the servant's quarters tile, you are allowed to use a servant from the servant's quarters box if needed. In the next step, you may invite any gentry from your active hand. All the guest cards are called gentry, meaning people of good social position just below nobility. The kind of gentry allowed to go to the activity are named or listed on the tile. You must be able to supply the exact number and type of gentry for the activity, or the activity cannot be hosted. There's 5 types: gentry, family, gentlemen, ladies, and a specific type of guest. Gentry is anyone. Family refers to gentry cards from your starting family. Gentlemen are male guests, while ladies are female guests. The gentry guests all have a prestige rating at the top left corner. At the beginning of step 3, when selecting an activity, your reputation number must be greater than or equal to the prestige of any guests that you intend to invite. Additionally, some gentry require a special servant to attend to them at any activity. You must have that servant available to host that guest. Place all the selected guests from your hand to below your board. This next step of the standard turn is to now provide service for the activity itself and all guests that require servants. Take the matching servant from available service and put them on the improvement tile and the matching ones for any guests onto their cards. All servants shown must be used. There are 3 servants that could stand in for other servants required. The red housekeeper can be used for a lady's maid if there are none available. There are 2 under butlers possible to gain in any game of Obsession, and only by buying the butler's pantry tile. The under butler can serve the capacity of any male servant, the butler, valet, or footman, even if those are available. The footman may stand in for a valet when there are no valets available if the player has built the brushing room. After providing service, you'll enjoy the favors of successfully hosting an activity. Most improvement tiles and gentry cards offer favors, of which there are 3 types: money, reputation, and invitations to new guests. Always acquire them in that order from everything together. They are not optional. For collecting money, add up or subtract any money shown among the guests and the improvement tile. If you owe money, you can use newly collected money to pay it immediately. Otherwise, you would have to pay from your existing supply. Once again, if you can't pay the total amount, you can't host that guest. Next, add up all the reputation icons provided. Move your reputation marker on the wheel clockwise that number of spaces. Whenever crossing from 5 to 1, increase the numbered disc in the center by 1. Likewise, anytime you pay reputation, you move counterclockwise and go down in number when moving the token from 1 to 5. You may still invite a guest if you can't move backwards the full number, being at position 1 with 1 reputation. In a standard game, after reputation 6, you replace it with the max reputation token. In an extended game, the reputation goes up to 8 before finally putting out the max token. Some guests have conditions on when extra favors are granted, such as the young lady. She only gives reputation if she attends an activity with a male prestige guest. The next kind of favors are to invite or dismiss gentry as shown on all sources. Casual or prestige cards taken from the decks are added to your active hand. Players should announce and show all players the new gentry they've acquired. Some favors are a choice between 2 benefits. Any dismissal of gentry favors are the only kind of favors that are optional to carry out. To dismiss a guest, they are permanently removed from your hand or discard pile. Put the card under their respective deck on the game board. Your starting family members cannot be dismissed. Lastly, any remaining favors shown that don't fall into one of those categories are resolved. It could be to draw a victory point card or spread gossip against another player, causing them to go down reputation. The victory point cards are kept near you and could be used for a special benefit during the game on your turn, or kept to be scored at the end. Check the provided reference card if you have a question about an icon. The image of a servant is also shown on the player boards for the favors. This favor is only possible through the use of the butler's room. If you place the butler's room tile for your turn, you can hire servants. By servicing it with a butler or under butler, you get to gain 2 servants from the servants for hire box. No gentry cards are used to do this activity. All newly acquired servants go to the expended service box on your player board. After enjoying favors, you may purchase 1 improvement tile from the market or the reserves. If it's the builder's holiday, you can buy as many as you can afford. The price to pay is shown both above the tile's location and at the top right of the tile. The standard price for the reserve tiles is £300. Sometimes tiles offer a discount. A player may never have more than one of the same improvement in their estate. The new tile is added to the estate organizer under its kind face up. The back side of a tile shows a rose in the corner. When buying the servants' hall or a monument, take a reminder tile and place it on your board to remind you to gain the reputation bonus for them on future turns. From the main market display, slide tiles to the left and draw a new one from the bag to put at the end. If a duplicate tile is drawn matching one in the market already, stack it together and draw again. Players can purchase any tile they can afford, including improvements that have a prestige rating higher than their reputation. The final step of the standard turn is to clear your player board. Move any servants used to the expended service box on your player board. Return the used improvement tile to the estate organizer. If you haven't yet flipped it because it's the first time you've done the activity, flip it over to the rose side. Once flipped, it stays flipped the rest of the game. However, there are hybrid tiles that flip each time, changing from one kind of tile to the other each time. Put all gentry cards who attended the activity into your personal discard pile next to your board. This concludes your turn, and the next player clockwise gets to go. After a full season, the first player marker passes counterclockwise. On your player board, you'll see 3 special actions available to take on your turn in addition to anything else. Each one costs a number of reputation points by moving your marker counterclockwise. You must be able to spend it to do it. You may borrow money for the cost of 2 reputation. Gain £100 for every 2 reputation you spend. For 3 reputation, you may refresh 1 servant to be available to use. Lastly, once per turn, you could spend 4 reputation to refresh the builder's market. To resolve the refresh, first remove and set aside all the improvement tiles from the builder's market. The reserves aren't affected. Draw new tiles from the bag to fill the 6 market spaces. Sort them in ascending tile sorting number from left to right and stack any duplicates drawn. If refreshing after the service reserves are created, immediately stack the service tiles on that spot. And if after the Prestige 1 reserve started, put those in the reserve stack when drawn. Remember to place all drawn tiles with their starting sides face up. A rose at the top right corner of the tile indicates it's the back. For other tiles, there may be an icon at the top right with a line underneath. That shows it's the starting side. If there's any other confusion, check for a plus or minus money amount shown. That's always the starting side. Resolve the 4th and final courtship when the pawn moves to the last space on the round track. Instead of just looking at the last theme card revealed, you'll be adding up victory points for each theme card revealed during the whole game. If multiple cards came out for the same improvement type, those tiles count again. Give one of the Fairchild cards to the player who got the most points this way, as you normally would. Whoever holds a Fairchild at the end of the game gets to count the points on their card to their final score. Additionally, don't forget to let that player draw a VP card for having the most. After this courtship round, move the marker to the wedding bells icon, indicating it's time to tally final scoring. Grab the score pad and pen and go through each category. First, add up all victory points shown on all your improvement tiles. Write this in the first box. Next, grab all your collected gentry cards from both your active hand and discard pile. Go through it and add or subtract all victory points shown on each card in the top right corner. The next scoring category is for all the objective cards that you've completed. Score the points shown and add them together. Next, you'll calculate your earned points for your reputation level at the end of the game. There's a chart in the rulebook that shows how many points are earned depending on what your reputation number is. For example, if you were at 7, you'd get 28 points. In the extended game, it's possible to go up to level 8 or 9 reputation. In that case, the max you could score would be 45 points. The next category to score is your servants on your board, regardless of type. Every person you have scores 2 victory points each. Next, score your wealth by adding up all your collected pounds in front of you. For every 200 pounds, you gain 1 VP. Round down. The last scoring category is any courtship victory point cards collected that haven't been spent. Add the points shown on each card and tally it. Add up everyone's scores on the score pad and see who scored the most. They win the game and have improved their family standing in Derbyshire society the most. If you find you have any questions about how a certain improvement tile works, first check the rulebook, then the glossary booklet in the game. Some special promo tiles may also be in your copy of the game, which you would find descriptions of on the printed reference card for those unique tiles. There are several variants possible to use in Obsession, along with 2 minor rule variants. Each game variation is named after a 19th century British figure. Some can be combined as well. The Jane Austen variant is a more romantic game that captures the tension and uncertainty of the Austen classics. This is a closed courtship rule modification where theme cards are revealed only when the round track pawn reaches the courtship space at the end of each season. Scoring and rewards for the revealed theme card happens as soon as it comes out. All themes are still scored in the final courtship. The Emily Brunt variation has a seasonal market and focuses on renovation and seasonally turns over the builder's market. At the start of each new season, refresh the builder's market. Of course, there's no need to refresh it at the end of the game. The tile reserves are never affected by the refresh. The Queen Victoria variation is a building boom, where the tile or stack of tiles in the least expensive position in the builder's market is removed at the end of each round. Before advancing the pawn to the next round, remove the tile in the leftmost position. Slide the tiles to the left and draw a new tile to fill in the rightmost position. Put the removed tile back in the bag. The last big variation is called Charles Dickens and is the cliffhanger rule. In this variant, the timing of each courtship is determined by a roll of a die at the start of each season. At the start of each season, roll the 20-sided die to determine which round a theme card is revealed. In a standard game, there's 4 rounds in each season. In an extended play game, there's 5 rounds in each season. Let's look at the roll results for a standard game first. For a 1 to 5, the theme card is revealed immediately. If a 6 to 10, put the die on the second round of the season to remind you to reveal a theme card then. With a result of 11 to 15, put it on the third round, and with a 16 to 20, put it on the fourth round space for the season. Since there are 5 rounds in an extended play game, the values are divided differently, which you can see in the glossary on page 26. Courtships are still only resolved on the courtship spaces. There are 2 minor rule variations you can throw into your game easily. The first is the starter guest card draft. At the start of the game, shuffle the starter gentry cards and create a deck of 2 times the number of players plus 2. Whoever is last in turn order gets to review the deck and choose a guest. The deck then passes counterclockwise and the next player chooses one. When the deck gets to the first player, they choose 2 and pass it back clockwise for players to gain 1 more. There will be 2 guests left over at the end of the draft, which should be shuffled with the other starters into the casual guest deck on the supply board. The second minor rule variation is called intensive service. In 2-player games, it's possible that only 1 or 2 service tiles makes an appearance in a standard length game. To increase the usefulness of service tiles early, select the butler's pantry, barn, and brushing room tiles to be one of the 6 starting tiles available in the builder's market at the start of the game. You could also increase this to 4 service tiles or have players choose the ones that start. Just don't start with the servants' hall. Obsession can be easily played solo with some small rules adjustments. There will be a game-controlled opponent to play against. There are a few rule exceptions to cover first. For the butler's room tile, the solo player can't recruit any servants from the opponent, only hire from the supply board. The servants' hall tile action is used to increase reputation. Nothing happens to the opponent. If any gentry card is played that would attack an opponent with gossip, no attack takes place. During setup, make these adjustments to what you would otherwise do. The solo player will be the start player, and you can choose any family board you want. Set up the round track and supply board like for a 2-player game. You'll be using the closed courtship variant rule called Jane Austen. I just described it in the previous section if you missed it. Next, you'll choose one of 12 opponents to play against. 4 expert level, 4 intermediate, and 4 beginner. Look in the solo card deck for the name and icon of the opponent with the difficulty level below the name and a base score shown in the large black print. The chart shown on each is the development of their estate over time and used to determine the courtship winners. Put your chosen opponent's card next to your player board and return the rest to the box. grab the 20-sided die and the solo card that has the Builder's Market AI on it. Put these next to the opponent's card. During gameplay, after you take a turn, you'll need to roll the d20 to see if the opponent scavenges a tile from the market. Consider each market space as numbered 1 through 6 from left to right. Check the charts on the card to see what the roll result means and which tile is removed. If a monument tile is in the display, use the results from the monument turn column for the results. If a 20 is rolled, simply refresh the market following the normal procedure. If there's a stack of tiles in the position to remove the whole stack. Set the removed tiles aside for the remainder of the game. If a 16 to 19 is rolled, the opponent doesn't remove a tile this turn, but subtracts 5 from the die value on the next turn. After removing any tiles, slide the remaining ones to the left and refill the rightmost space with a new tile from the bag. Be sure to still observe the reserves rules when applicable. During a courtship round, reveal a theme card and compare your VP total for the theme to the theme value shown on the opponent's card chart. For example, with the Eden opponent, if the theme Prestige is revealed in Season 2, her total is 3. The solo player compares their VP total for their themed improvements to that to determine who wins the courtship that season. Winning the courtship gives you a VP card and one of the Fairchild cards like normal. If you lose to the AI opponent, put the top VP card face down without looking next to their card. If there's a tie, both gain a VP card. In the final courtship, if the opponent wins, they also take the Fairchild card for scoring purposes. The solo player scores normally during final scoring. Their total score is compared to the large black base score printed on the solo card, plus any VP cards won during courtships, and the Fairchild card if applicable. Whoever scored the most wins. The solo player wins ties. There's a Monuments variant that adds an additional challenge. Add all the victory points from monuments scavenged from the market during the game to their base score. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. If you want to support the channel, now you can. We've started a Patreon page at patreon.com/Meeple Mentor. There's various pledge levels for small monthly support that helps grow the channel's content. You can get access to new content early. You'll get to vote on new game tutorials that come out on the channel and more. But of course, simply watching our videos, liking, commenting, and all of that YouTube stuff certainly helps. Thank you so much. Consider giving us a subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video, or check out the latest news video to learn about what's going on in the board gaming industry. There's always new games coming out. Until next time, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you later.